Hey everybody, Aaron Cowan, Sage Dynamics, and this is the FN57 MRD. One of the first products, in fact, it may have been the first FN firearm I ever owned. I'd been issued an FN in the military. Previous to that, they make the saw, of course, and the saw that I used when I was a saw gunner was an FN, and it worked pretty fantastically, even though it had been over-cleaned, as most infantry weapons have been. Second FN firearm I ever owned was the FN57. When it pretty much just came out and was available, they're getting away from the USG model into the tactical, which had a much more reasonable trigger pull. And I went ahead and purchased one. And then it took me about, again, this was the early 2000s now, it took me about 6 months to actually get ammunition for it, to be able to shoot it, and then of course sourcing holsters. In fact, I ordered a holster from Bowtac.com, and as of today, I still haven't gotten it. So, fingers crossed, back order should be fulfilled soon. But I've always been a fan of the round, probably mainly because I understood what it was for. The P90, of course, coming from the days of GoldenEye, one of those firearms that I always wanted to own, although justification for it pretty much was relegated to, I just want it. And if I can afford it, I should absolutely get it. The 5.7 pistol, I was a huge fan of it, mainly because of the round. Very light recoil. And ballistically, for what it was intended to do, it performs very, very well. It's not a handgun round. It's not a rifle round. It's an intermediate cartridge that's got a PDW type category application, so a very specific niche need and implementation and use, much like, you know, your HK MP7, some of the other PDW specific ammunitions that are out there. If you think about it like a handgun, you might be disappointed. If you think about it like a rifle, you might be disappointed. But if you think about it like an intermediate PDW round, it's going to be very good at intermediate barrier penetration with low recoil, high ammunition capacity at low weight. Then it's pretty awesome. I ended up getting rid of that 5.7, and I kind of wish I hadn't, but I did. I got another one later on. And when I found out that FN was going to be doing the 5.7, well, optics ready, I was really excited about that. Now, I need to, of course, full disclosure for this video, I am not doing a review on this gun because I cannot. I am on FN's pro staff, which means they provide me compensation for consulting and various other services that I provide, which means that if I were to review this, it would be, well, a conflict of interest. So, not reviewing. This is just an informational video telling you about the gun and how excited I am that it exists. Because one of the things I always wanted to do, getting into red dots years and years later, was put a red dot on a 5.7. And while there are aftermarket solutions for that, for the original, the tactical, the USG, or they called like the Mark II, factory is pretty cool. So FN recently released the FN57 MRD, and that's what we're looking at right now. There's some other subtle changes too, coming over from the last generation of 5.7, things that you can look at and kind of appreciate, but a lot of the parts commonality is still there. So things that you loved about the original 5.7 are still there. Things that you didn't like, unfortunately, they might still be there. Because this is one of those guns that can be a little controversial depending on a person's intent or what they're intending to do with it. For me, it's a like I said, an intermediate cartridge, high capacity. We're talking 20 rounds of ammunition and a grip that's just barely in the full-size category. And then it is a single action only type operation. It does have a manual safety. Your controls are as ergonomic as they can be for the control surfaces. Reversible magazine release, which is something I'm going to need because I'm a left-handed shooter. And now it is optics ready. It comes with a number of optic footprint plates adapters available, so you can mount the popular optics on there. And of course, the aftermarket's going to take care of some of those niche optics that maybe aren't addressed up front. One of the things about the 5.7 is, at least in regards to the handgun, there are some other firearms that are capable of shooting, but the FN, the 5.7, the MRD, it is a larger gun. You're looking at a barrel length of 4.8 inches, which gives you an overall length of just over 8 inches. So it's a larger gun, but it's not necessarily significantly larger than a lot of guns a lot of people carry anyway. If you were going to think about, well, you know, I already carry like a 4.5 inch or a 5 inch or a full-size 17 or 2011 or something like that, this gun would fit right in there nicely if it was going to be something that you wanted to carry, because it does give you a lot of ammunition, reduced recoil, ballistic performance, especially like rounds like the Gold Dot round, but also some of the rounds that are specific to FN. They perform well. It's not something that necessarily has gotten the I I guess, the attention that maybe it has in the past couple of years about looking at, taking a second look or third look or whatever about the ballistic capability of the 5.7. Iron sights that come with the 5.7 are adjustable, and of course they're going to co-witness through most of the optics that you would mount on it if that's something that you're really concerned about. And of course it's got FN's normal cold hammer forged barrel with a 1 in 9 twist. Trigger pull, this is something that some people didn't like about the USG, of course, because USG had a huge trigger pull, but we're talking almost 20 years ago when that thing was around. The tactical model, or the Mark II, or whatever you want to call it, that came along after that had a significantly reduced trigger weight, breaking in between 5 and 7 pounds. And to me, for the 5.7 MRD that I have, it's right around in that neighborhood, 4.5 to 5 plus. It's got a really consistent pull to it. It is a long single action, which I think alludes to some people thinking that the trigger is a little bit heavier than it really is, because there's just a whole lot of press going on there. Of course, this isn't a gun for everyone. I am super happy that it exists. The biggest problem I've usually had when I think about the 5.7 has been ammunition availability, and then of course the ammunition cost. If you think about it like a pistol round, it's really expensive. If you think about it like a rifle round, it's not so bad. As a suppressor host, this is an excellent gun, because again, we're getting that light recoil with very high muzzle velocity, very good terminal ballistics for what the round was intended to do. It's not going to be a replacement or a replacement caliber for maybe what your traditional handgun does. If you already carry a 9 or a 40 or a 45, this isn't really intended to replace that. It's for intermediate barriers. And in that category, it does very, very, very well. So if you're worried about penetrating something, I generally bring a 5.7 with me to vehicle classes when I teach, to show people the ballistic capability of the 5.7 round doing what it was intended to do, PDW type stuff. And it punches through intermediate barriers, even not with the restricted LE military only ammunition. It penetrates very, very well, and it's a very compact package. So if it's something that if you wanted something to have like an overmatch capability, 5.7 is definitely going to provide that. I think everyone should own something chambered in this round with a reasonable supply of the ammunition for those special occasions. As an MRD host, it's an excellent gun. Being able to put, I mean, I want red dots on everything at this point, so I hadn't really shot my 5.7 very much. But now I'm going to be shooting this as much as my budget can provide for the ammunition, because it's a super fun round to shoot. Good ballistic performance, great accuracy, especially out of the FN's cold hammer forged barrel. And it's just one of those guns that, like, I don't want to call it recreational enjoyment, but if I just want to shoot something for the joy of shooting, and I'm not worried about drills or skills, or I'm not worried about practice or training or anything like that, this is one of the guns I definitely reach for, just for the enjoyment of the activity. If you already have a 5.7 and you want a red dot on it, this is the way to go. Go ahead and sell that last gen, get the latest gen, come optic ready. I went ahead and threw an RMR on mine, but like I said, it's got a number of mounting plates that come with it for your more popular optic footprints that are out there, and of course the aftermarket's going to take care of you for other optics that they don't immediately readily provide for. It's got enough parts commonality with the original FN, so like I bought a threaded barrel for it, and it was straight drop in, no big deal. My previous threaded barrel, I thought I had to buy a new one, didn't have to buy a new one, so now I have 2 threaded barrels. It's kind of pointless, but I do have 2 5.7s, so not so bad. And then of course suppressing this round, I use the Dead Air Mask, probably my favorite can for the 5.7 caliber. I use it on my P90 as well. Provides very good sound attenuation, sound reduction, what suppressors do, and functions great on this gun. So if you're curious about the 5.7 round, or if you're curious, I should say, about the new MRD, it's kind of my take on it. They changed just enough to update and modernize the gun without taking away from what made it great in the first place. So I highly recommend, if you don't have something that shoots the 5.7 round, this would be the gun to get to kind of dip your toe in, and you might find that you want to get other things that shoot this round, because for what the round was intended to do, it performs excellent. And now I have a red dot handgun, 5.7 MRD, that shoots one of my favorite rounds for general purpose and for those pesky intermediate barriers. I'm Eric with Sage Dynamics. Train accordingly.